In the shadow of the world's highest peaks, where the air is thin and the winds whisper secrets of the ancients, lies a ritual that defies our modern sensibilities. A practice where death is not buried in the earth, but offered to the skies. Welcome to the world of Tibetan sky burials, where the dead are fed to vultures. This is not a tale of horror, but one of profound spirituality, ecological harmony, and cultural resilience. As a historian delving into the macabre archives of human tradition, I invite you to journey with me into the heart of Tibet, where the cycle of life and death dances on the wings of birds of prey. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this enigmatic custom known as jader in Tibetan, meaning giving alms to the birds. It's a funeral rite that has persisted for over 1,000 years, rooted in the Vajrayana branch of Buddhism that dominates Tibetan culture. But to understand sky burials, we must first step back into history, to the origins of Tibet itself. Tibet, often called the roof of the world, is a vast plateau averaging over 14,000 feet above sea level. Its isolation fostered a unique blend of indigenous Bon shamanism and imported Indian Buddhism, which arrived in the 7th century AD during the reign of King Songtsen Gampo. By the 8th century, under the influence of Padmasambhava, the tantric master known as Guru Rinpoche, Vajrayana Buddhism took firm hold. This esoteric form of Buddhism emphasizes rituals, mantras, and the transformation of ordinary experiences into paths to enlightenment. Death, in Vajrayana, is not an end but a transition. The Bardo Thodol, or Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes the intermediate state between death and rebirth. Sky burial aligns with this philosophy. The body, seen as an empty vessel after the soul departs, is returned to nature, feeding other beings and preventing attachment to the material world. But why vultures? Why not cremation or earth burial? The answers lie in Tibet's harsh environment. The ground is often frozen permafrost, making digging graves impractical. Firewood is scarce in the treeless highlands, rendering cremation a luxury for the elite. Sky burial, by contrast, is efficient, egalitarian, and ecologically sound. It is a form of excarnation, the exposure of bodies to the elements or animals, seen in other cultures like the Zoroastrian Towers of Silence, particularly ancient Persia, or the Native American scaffold burials. Historical records of sky burial date back to at least the 12th century. The Tibetan epic Gasser of Ling mentions it, and Marco Polo, in his 13th century travels, describes similar practices in Mongolia, influenced by Tibetan nomads. European explorers in the 19th century, like French missionary Évariste Regis Huck, were shocked by what they witnessed, calling it barbaric. Yet, to Tibetans, it's an act of compassion, dana, or generosity, extended even in death. Let's walk through the ritual step by step, as it might unfold in a remote Tibetan village today. Though note that due to Chinese restrictions since the 1950s occupation, practices have evolved, and photography is often forbidden out of respect. When death occurs, the body is not immediately handled. For 3 days, lamas, monks chant prayers to guide the soul through the bardo. The corpse is washed, oiled, and wrapped in white cloth, positioned in a fetal pose symbolizing rebirth. Astrologers consult the stars to choose an auspicious day and site, usually a sacred charnel ground on a hilltop, far from settlements to avoid pollution. The procession begins at dawn. Family members, though grieving, do not touch the body. That's the domain of the Ragyapas, the body breakers. These are specialized butchers, often from lower castes, trained in the art of preparing the body. They're not pariahs, but respected for their role in the ritual. Upon arrival, incense is burned to summon the vultures, revered as the Kinis, sky-dancing female deities who carry the soul heavenward. The Ragyapas unwrap the body, preparing it with care and precision. They make offerings of the body to the vultures, mixing portions with sampa, barley flour, to make it suitable for the birds. Bones are respectfully processed to ensure complete consumption. As the vultures descend, sometimes hundreds strong, including massive Himalayan griffins with 10-foot wingspans, the offering is completed swiftly, often within hours. Any remains are burned or scattered, ensuring nothing is left to haunt the living. This isn't mere disposal. It's symbolic. The vultures represent the element of air, dispersing the body into the cosmos. It prevents the soul from lingering, aids in karmic release, and embodies impermanence, anicca in Buddhist terms. But sky burial isn't universal in Tibet. Nomads and commoners favor it, while high lamas might be embalmed or cremated. Variations exist. In some regions, bodies are left whole for vultures. In others, fish consume them in rivers. Controversies abound. Westerners often view it as shocking, fueling sensationalist media. Animal rights groups question it, though vultures thrive on it. Under Chinese rule, sky burials were banned during the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, as feudal superstition, forcing secret practices. Today, they're tolerated but regulated. Tourism has led to exploitative shows, diluting sanctity. Yet, the tradition endures, adapting to modernity. In urban areas like Lhasa, government-run sky burial sites charge fees. Climate change affects vulture populations, poisoned by diclofenac in livestock, a crisis echoing India's vulture die-off. As historians, we see sky burial as a window into human adaptation. It challenges our death taboos, reminding us that rituals reflect environment, belief, and society. In a world of embalmed corpses and manicured cemeteries, Tibet's way honors nature's raw cycle. To truly appreciate sky burials, we must trace their roots deeper into pre-Buddhist Tibet. Before Buddhism's arrival, the Bon religion, a shamanistic faith with animistic elements, dominated. Bon practitioners believed in sky gods and nature spirits, and excarnation may have originated as offerings to these entities. Archaeological evidence from Neolithic sites in the Tibetan Plateau shows processed bones, suggesting early sky burial-like practices dating back 3,000 years. With Buddhism's integration in the 8th century, Bon elements were absorbed. The second Buddha, Padmasambhava, is said to have tamed local demons and incorporated sky rituals into tantric practices. Tantra, with its emphasis on transcending dualities like life-death, found sky burial fitting, a meditation on emptiness, shunyata. Medieval texts like the 14th century Blue Annals by Jilotsawa describe sky burials in detail, noting their use among yogis who meditated in charnel grounds to confront fear. Charnel grounds, or dirtra, were places of power, where practitioners visualized deities amid offerings to achieve enlightenment. During the Mongol Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368, Tibetan Buddhism spread northward, influencing Mongol burial customs. Kublai Khan's court adopted elements, though Mongols preferred horse sacrifices. In the 17th century, under the Dalai Lama's theocracy, sky burial became standardized, with lamas overseeing rituals. European accounts provide outsider perspectives. In 1624, Portuguese Jesuit Antonio de Andrade described birds eating the dead in Sabarang. British explorer Francis Younghusband, during the 1904 invasion, noted the practice with discomfort. These colonial views framed it as primitive, ignoring its sophistication. Post-1950, after China's annexation, sky burials symbolized resistance. During the 1959 uprising, bodies of rebels were sky-buried defiantly. The 1980s reforms allowed revival, but with oversight. Today, exile communities in India and Nepal preserve it, though adapted. Vulture shortages lead to alternative feedings. Comparative history reveals parallels. Zoroastrians' dogmas expose bodies to vultures to avoid polluting fire, earth, or water, echoing Tibetan elemental purity. Plains Indian sky platforms served similar purposes. Even Viking ship burial sent bodies to the sky via sea. Ecologically, sky burial is brilliant. Vultures, as nature's cleaners, prevent disease. Studies show Tibetan vulture populations are stable compared to India's 99% decline. It's zero waste, no coffins, no land use. Spiritually, it's tied to Phawa, transference of consciousness at death. Lamas teach that proper disposal aids rebirth in higher realms. Imagine standing on a Tibetan hilltop, the wind biting as Ragyapas prepare the offering. The air fills with wing beats. Vultures swoop like divine messengers. A family chants mantras, tears mixing with prayers. It's not morbid, it's liberating. I've studied accounts from anthropologists like David Snellgrove, who in the 1950s witnessed rituals, describing the Rangyapa's skill as precise. Modern travelers respecting bans on filming report profound experiences. In the 21st century, sky burial faces challenges. Urbanization pushes Tibetans toward crematoria. Vulture conservation is critical. WWF programs monitor populations. Climate change melts permafrost, enabling ground burials but disrupting traditions. Global interest spikes via media. Documentaries like Sky Burial, 2005, sensitively portray it, while horror films sensationalize. Social media debates ethics. Is it humane? Tibetans argue it's kinder than factory farming. As a historian, I see sky burial evolving. Hybrid rites emerge, blending with green burials in the West. It inspires eco-funeral movements. Give back to nature. Yet, the core remains impermanence. The Buddha said, "All compounded things are impermanent." Sky burial embodies this, teaching detachment. Let's dissect the ritual further. Preparation. Upon death, the body is left untouched for 3 to 7 days. Lamas read from the Book of the Dead, guiding the soul. The room is sealed. Mirrors covered to prevent soul trapping. Astrological consultation. Lamas use divination to pick time, avoiding inauspicious days like Wednesdays for some clans. Procession. Body carried on a stretcher, head first, to the site. No women or children attend. It's men's domain. At the dirtra, stones mark boundaries. Incense and juniper smoke summon birds. Ragyapas, wearing aprons, begin. Offering preparation. The body is respectfully prepared, with offerings made to ensure suitability for vultures. Tools. Knives, axes, mallets. It's methodical, not chaotic. Feeding. Portions are offered. Vultures eat in hierarchy. Largest first. If birds hesitate, it omens poor karma. More prayers needed. Aftermath. Site cleaned. Ashes scattered. Family receives blessings. Symbolism. Vultures as Garudas, mythical birds enemies of Nagas. Serpents symbolizing ego. Feeding them destroys attachments. Elements. Body returns to air. Vultures, earth, bones, fire, incense, water, blood. Variations. For children, bodies left whole. Suicides might get river burials. High Lama's relics preserved in stupas. Taboos. No mourning at sight. Laughter encouraged to deter ghosts. Ragyapas don't eat meat that day. Famous sky burials include the 13th Dalai Lama's in 1933. Though partially cremated, remains were sky offered. Nalarippa, the 11th century poet saint, requested his body be fed to birds, symbolizing non-attachment. In exile, the 14th Dalai Lama endorses it but notes adaptations. A 2011 case. A Tibetan self-immolator's body was sky-buried secretly, defying authorities. Anthropological studies. Robert Ekval's 1964 Fields on the Hoof details nomadic practices. Modern research by Garang, 2012, examines environmental impacts. Sky burial isn't just a funeral, it's a philosophy. In our sanitized world, it reminds us death is natural, interconnected. As Tibet modernizes, this ritual may fade, but its lessons endure. Thank you for joining this historical exploration. If the macabre fascinates you, delve deeper into the blood archive.